I'm not a good drinker. I'm a good trier at drinking, but however hard I try, I can't hold my booze. Now, in the late 1980s, I am secretary to the general manager of a beach resort hotel in Dubai. And one July evening, I am obliged to participate in the summer extravaganza. And as an introvert, this is a part of my job I hate. Now, picture this, a huge ballroom with large round tables, all of them covered with fine crockery and crystal glasses, and in the center of each, an enormous bouquet, and all around that, full bottles of gin, vodka, whiskey, rum, and brandy. And all of these have been paid for by the guests. Now, I know that I'm going to have to sit at a table with my date and socialize with these guests. And they don't know me, and they don't give a rat's ass if I'm alive or dead. And as I said, introvert, I've got to do it. So now, picture me at the time. I am suffering extreme anxiety, having left Libya a couple of years earlier. And I tolerate, I work my way through it with a smile and a stiff upper lip. But the moment I enter that party, my stomach is churning, my hands are shaking, the sweat's pouring down my face. I can feel my pulse in my temples. I may be having a panic attack. I don't know. I don't know what PTSD is. I mean, all I know is I seem to be panicking, but nobody has noticed. Nobody's going to notice me if I spontaneously combust. Now, I don't take anxiety meds, but I have been known to have a couple of drinks to calm myself down. Maybe a cocktail will help. So I have a nice, calming gin and tonic, and then a second one before the meal. And this is enough to make me the most interesting person in the room. The only one with an opinion, the leader of the free world. Because I don't appear drunk, I never slur my words or fall into hedges. Quite the opposite. I get brighter, smarter, and more articulate. So I sit at the dinner table with my date, and I eat the 3-course meal, and I drink wine with the meal. And I know that the dinner conversation is scintillating. I know because I'm part of it. I'm getting it going. Oh, I am fascinating when I've had a few. And then I have port and cheese after the meal. And I start telling jokes, very, very naughty jokes, to senior officials at high-rated Dubai companies, many of them in full Arab dress. Yes, I'm riveting. And then everybody starts drinking all the real booze, the serious booze, the gin, the vodka, the whiskey. And I know I have some of that too. And then the dancing starts. Oh, I love to dance. And when I'm under the influence, I can bust more moves than the Jackson 5. Mel, the hotel DJ, always plays Michael Jackson medley, so I'm sure I do a full-on impersonation. Well, at the end of the evening, as we're leaving, I notice that the bottles are still on the table, and many of them are nearly full. The gin bottle I see has loads left, and I think to myself, it's silly to leave them here when they've already been paid for. I mean, what can they do with them? They obviously can't put them back on the shelf like that. And so I slipped the Beefeater's gin into my bag. I won't say I stole it. I didn't. I wasn't stealing it. I wasn't hiding it. I just tucked it out of the way so that there wouldn't be any questions. And then my date escorted me out of the ballroom and into the giant marble-floored lobby. Now, it's a July night, and so it's steamy and very, very hot and sticky, very much like an Austin night. And I have forgotten that what happens in the hotel on these hot and humid nights is that there's a lot of condensation. Well, obviously this has slipped my mind because as I swing joyfully out of the ballroom, I hadn't bargained for the fact that the floor would be very slippery. And with a great cry of whoa, I went arse over tit in the middle of the hotel. And as I hit the floor, the gin bottle smashed loudly into smithereens. And I lay there in a pool of gin, and I laughed and laughed and laughed. Naturally anesthetized as I was, I felt no pain. My slightly disappointed date tried to help me up, which was no easy task because I kept sliding around in the gin like a novice ice skater. But once I got back on my feet, I picked up shards of glass from the floor and popped them in my handbag, and then we glided across the floor through the gin and the condensation out into the hotel gardens. Oh, those gardens were glorious. Peacocks strutted around proudly, their feathers splayed in all their glory. Peacocks are ghastly birds, you know. They make a real racket and they shit everywhere. But they are spectacular when you're ambling through an exotic Arabian garden. Well, my, by this time, really rather disappointed date watched as I emptied the shards of glass and the gin out of my handbag underneath a trellis of bougainvillea, tittering all the time. And then by now, he's really very upset with me. He drives me home and he drops me at my place. And then I go to bed without taking off my makeup and with all my clothes on. And you don't judge me because you've all done it. I know that. When I wake up the next morning, it's possible I'm still drunk. The hangover hasn't really set in yet, but I just definitely don't feel quite all there. And I really wish that I had taken my makeup off and everything, because now every little thing takes a lot of effort. Well, I shower and I dress and I get in my car and I drive to the hotel. I probably shouldn't be driving, but the hotel's in the middle of the desert, and the only thing I'm likely to encounter is a camel, and I think I could probably manage to miss one of those, even if I'm seeing with double vision, or even two of them. The minute I walk into the hotel, I know that something's wrong. There is a pall over the place, an atmosphere you can carve with a ceremonial Bedouin dagger. Everyone's speaking in hushed tones. Clearly something terrible has happened. I say to the front office manager, "What's going on?" "Oh, it's terrible," she said. "Mel, the DJ's been suspended." "What for?" I say innocently. "Well, she got really pissed last night and she stole some of the booze from the table." Well, it's like a bucket of water's being thrown in my face. Actually, that would probably be a good thing because all of a sudden I feel rather sick and a bit woozy. "What's going to happen to her?" I say. "Oh, I don't know, but the boss is in a really bad mood. I bet she'll get the sack." Oh no, well, you can imagine my train of thought now. I mean, if Mel gets the sack, he'll have to sack me too. He can't sack one of us, he'll have to sack us both. And then I think, hey, wait a minute. He doesn't know about me. I'm going to be all right. Whew! But as I walk into my office, I think, well, maybe Mel the DJ was like me. She thought that the booze was all paid for and that she wasn't really doing anything wrong. And then all of a sudden, I get a memory of what I did the night before. It starts looming its ugly head. And I think about the conversations and the joke telling and the dancing. And I'm just filled with horror. And then I think, well, I can't let Mel get the sack when I've done the same thing too. I really should own up to it, admit that I did it too. And that way, Mel would get reinstated, and maybe I'd even be a bit of a hero, here I come to save the day. Well, I take a deep breath, and I walk into my boss's office. And I open my mouth to speak, but before I have a chance to say anything, he slaps a piece of paper in front of me and says, "What have you got to say to this?" Well, I see that it's a photocopy of the duty manager's report, the night manager. And I can see already that it's just telling exactly what Mel did and her misbehavior. And I think, okay, well, you better go on with your confession when I see that I'm up next, that I have been seen stealing a bottle of gin, that I have been seen falling over and breaking the bottle in the lobby, that I have made a mess in the middle of the lobby which staff have had to clear up. Well, now I actually wish that I could spontaneously combust, because that would be the ideal situation. But it's hard to explain anything at that point. I just kept breathing deeply and thinking, how can I explain it? And eventually the boss said, "Well, what am I going to do with you? I can't sack you, can I?" Which gave me an opportunity to mention Mel, that she shouldn't be sacked too, because after all, we had both bent the rules in the same way. My penalty, our penalty, was 3 months suspension from hotel social activities. Yes! Unless we really had to do it for hotel purposes. But my real punishment was the guilt and the shame at having behaved so badly. And of course, the realization that self-medication wasn't going to be the answer to my anxiety issues, not then or ever. And I thought about it afterwards, and the main realization that came from it was that even though I had sunk to the very bottom of the deep end, the only way out was up. Thank you.